Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus, and Happy whatever else. Every year I lift my moratorium on taking requests, and I let you guys vote for what I call the gift video, and according to fan demand, the 2023 gift video will be a character quest on Double D from Ed Eddie, or as he's more popularly known, Head in Sock Ed Boy. In the cul-de-sac's misfit delinquent group that is the Ed Trio, Double D is the odd Ed out. He's the only one that's not malicious or dangerous, he's relatively socially acceptable, and for the most part, he has a clear vision on what he wants in life, even at this early stage of development. So with all that being said, why does he stick with Ed and Eddie? Well, let me explain. In the group of Eds, Eddie is the mouth. He's the carnival barker for all the scams, and he's the front man whenever the group's in trouble. Ed is the muscle, quite literally, but aside from that, he's the one who does the jobs that the other two Eds don't want to do. As for Double D, he's the brain. He comes up with most of the required contraptions, he's the first one to point out the flaws in Eddie's plans, even though his input is usually ignored, and he's naturally the smartest of the three. And this is how it's been since Double D first moved to the cul-de-sac. As we've seen in a flashback, Ed and Eddie were the first kids he came in contact with, and right away he struck up a friendship, mostly based on the fact that they all have the same name. From that day on, the group was inseparable, despite the fact that one of its members was very different from the other two. Double D will have his occasional moments of being a kid, like obsessing over jawbreakers or wanting to watch a monster movie, but for the most part, he doesn't have anything in common with his two friends. Whereas they like destruction, mayhem, and causing trouble, Double D is orderly, obsessive-compulsive, and is a people-pleasing doormat. The secret to their friendship, despite all these conflicting differences, is that Double D needs the other two Eds, and the other two Eds need Double D. Think about it this way, with Double D's personality and his lack of a backbone, where would he be in life? Worst case scenario, he'd be the older Jimmy, one who's stuck in their own little world, and is virtually incapable of standing up for himself. The other two Eds give him backbone. They challenge him constantly to stand up for his beliefs. Though it goes without saying that it's not on purpose. Since Ed and Eddie always get Double D in trouble, he has to snap back. If he doesn't fend for himself, nobody will. Do you think that Double D could take Kevin or the Cankers on all by himself? No! He needs somebody strong like Ed or somebody conniving like Eddie to have his back. And besides, they help Double D experience life. Double D's home environment is relatively quiet and sterile. His parents are rarely home, often communicating with him through sticky notes. Every surface in the house has to be scarily clean. Every item has to be meticulously organized, and all of the food has to be overly healthy and bland. Regardless as to whether or not they're present parents, Mr. and Mrs. Double D are not going to be able to provide their son with the childhood he needs. He has to have time to be a kid. He needs some experiences where he breaks some rules, eats a lot of sugar, or scrapes his knee. Thanks to Ed and Eddie, he's got more than enough of these to go around. This is especially important for somebody like Double D because he takes himself way too seriously. For example, in Too Smart for His Own Ed, when Double D is no longer considered the smartest person in school, he shuts down. In his mind, his intellect is his only defining trait. Without being recognized for his academic achievements, he's got nothing going on. That's not exactly a healthy mindset to have, so luckily, he's constantly surrounded by people who remind him, "You're one of us," for better or worse. Even though Ed and Eddie didn't exactly handle that situation well, but this friendship is a two-way street. As much as Double D needs the other two Eds, they need him just as much, if not more. Despite his quirks, Double D is the only member of the Ed trio that's socially accepted. Ed is dumb, loud, brutish, and smells terrible, and Eddie, well, he's the resident hooligan. Nobody wants to get near him. That is until he reforms in Big Picture Show, but we've already discussed that in the past. Whenever the Eds are interacting with the other cul-de-sac kids as a group, they're all hated, but when it's just Double D talking to them, for the most part, they're relatively respectful. Sure, they don't like the people he hangs around with or some of the stuff he gets up to. But at the end of the day, more often than not, they consider him an okay guy. This means that Double D is the only Ed with a real shot at making friends. The other two are hopeless. If they don't want to be alone, they need Double D. Besides, I'm pretty sure that Double D is the only reason that those two aren't dead now, but this also goes for an individual level as well. Double D and Ed are polar opposites. Double D is overly hygienic, Ed is afraid of soap. Double D has a fascination with the finer things in life, and Ed rots his mind with mindless movies. Double D is intelligent, and Ed is Ed. You see where I'm going with this, right? There needs to be a yin to every yang. Double D keeps Ed out of trouble, somewhat, ensures his safety, again, somewhat, and is there to pick up the pieces of his broken life. Ed's household is not exactly the healthiest. He has a negligent mother, a father who wants to force him to follow in his footsteps, and an abusive sister. They're not going to look out for Ed. All they want to do is either scold him or quote-unquote fix him. Well, yes, Double D does try to set Ed on a better path. He does so in a loving way, and one that Ed is more likely to respond to. Some would consider Ed a lost cause, but Double D will never give up on him, which is more than I can say for Ed's own family. As for Eddie, this guy needs a friend, period. If it wasn't for Double D being the mediator between him and Ed, I don't know how much longer Ed would stick around if he wasn't so blindly loyal. Let's face it, Eddie doesn't exactly treat the big lug with much respect. And even though Eddie would vehemently deny this, he wants more out of friendship than just a goon to boss around. If he was stuck with Ed and Ed alone, he would be the loneliest boy in the cul-de-sac. Besides, if Eddie wants to get anywhere with his scams, he needs somebody like Double D. All Eddie is an idea guy. Not the monsters that brainwashed Christian, that's another subject. But all he can do is come up with a concept. He needs a brainiac like Double D to help put everything together. Otherwise, he's just going to be stuck with scams like Bottomless Ed, and while that might have worked when they were all little, I don't see that keeping its effectiveness in junior high. Even if sometimes Double D objects to these scams, they still bolster Eddie's intellectual side, and to Double D, that's one of the most important things one friend can do for another. Eddie has a gift. He's a natural salesman, so if someone helps him pursue this talent, there's no telling what he can do when he's an adult. And the only person who's able to bring that out of Eddie is Double D. Now, this wouldn't be a complete analysis of Double D if we didn't include one of the most infamous aspects to his role in the show. And no, I'm not talking about what's under the hat, Siamese twin! I'm talking about the fact that whenever the group as a whole gets punished, even when Double D didn't do anything wrong, he's always there to receive punishment along with Ed and Eddie. Many fans of Ed, and Eddie have decried these moments, saying that they're mean-spirited and undeserved. And, well, kind of, yeah, I think they're important. They speak volumes to Double D's character. Remember earlier when I said that Double D could make friends with the cul-de-sac kids if he was out on his own? Keep that in mind when he's being punished at the end of these episodes. At a moment's notice, he could denounce Ed and Eddie, say that he's done with their wicked ways, and go join the other kids. He'd have more intellectually stimulating conversations, he'd be regularly involved in the group's activities, and generally speaking, he would have many more friends that could be just as close as he was to the other Eds. But as present as that opportunity may be, he won't take it. They've been friends for so long. Why should he give up on them? Especially when he needs them and they need him. In a life as boring as Double D's, friends are all he has. Remember that episode of Fistful of Ed when everyone's convinced that Double D becomes the school bully? He's generally upset that his reputation has taken a nosedive and that everybody's afraid of him. But what really breaks his heart is when Ed breaks the friendship off. Despite all of the things that Ed has put Double D through, and despite all of the germs that he's been exposed to because of Ed, Double D wants his friend back first and foremost. And even in the big picture show, when it looks like he finally gives up on Eddie giving one sincere apology is enough to turn everything back around. When it comes to these two, Double D can't hold a grudge. They're together forever. Especially since Ed probably doesn't have any prospects of having a career or, hate to say it, living alone. I know it's a cliched phrase, but Double D is the glue that holds this group together. And luckily for him, his loyalty was rewarded. He was able to grow a backbone after standing up to Eddie, and the Eds were officially absorbed into the cul-de-sac group, so his number of official friends just skyrocketed. And here's hoping that as the years go on, this new batch of friends will be able to teach Double D some new lessons and vice versa. After all, he's got a pretty impressive resume of doing exactly that during his role as the Odd Ed Out. Well folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What's your favorite Double D moment and what's going on under that hat? Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Elisamir Rogers Archer, Kev Messick, Platinum Bass, Quiet Chap, Ryan Williams, Timey, and Woody Woo. And now our executive producers, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Indiscreet One, Leaf Storm, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you two would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then please consider donating to the Patreon. There's a link in the description below for you to check out. There are also links to the Media Mementos Discord server, as well as the second channel, Media Mementos Extra, where we have behind-the-scenes videos, short clips, and other sorts of subjectively entertaining things. Alright folks, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time!